Hey, guys. I hope you are doing well. Hey, guys, I hope you're doing well. I'm coming to you guys to do a quick tutorial. So I'm going to check something real quick and then we're going to get started. So while we're waiting and taking a quick second to do this, please go ahead and tag your friends or anyone else that you know that wanted to get information about this. So we can go ahead and get started. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. The other day was National DNA Day, so hey, glad to have that. Like I'm excited. I like it to get science tech and geeky on those days and um, get more information about what is going on. We have summits and things of that nature. So it is super cool to have that information come out. So please definitely go ahead and tag your friends, family, anybody that wants to get the information because we're going to update you guys on some stuff that's happening. And so I'm going to test my volume real quick. All right. And we're going to go ahead and get started. So I have the chat up over in the on my phone, and then we're going to go ahead and get started. So hey guys, welcome to the presentation. We are going to talk about some amazing stuff today. So go ahead and please share, like, tag. If you're watching live, please do put in that you're watching live. Tell us where you're coming from. If you can hear us, it's clear. If you're watching the replay, please do put hashtag replay because we want to make sure that if the information is coming across the way that it's supposed to. So we're coming into today to talk about the conversation and have this conversation with you guys about ways that you can discover and decode your DNA. So most of the time when you hear people talking about DNA and genetic, there's a mixed field. People don't understand it, or they're like, that's that medical stuff. I'm going to stay away from it, or they just are not clear. So a lot of times, in some cases where there's confusion, there's conversations, but in a lot of times where there's confusion, they just don't, right? And so we want to come and talk to you guys about several different ways that you can actually use your DNA or your genetics. You'll hear me use that out interchangeably throughout the conversation. But I definitely want to come and talk to you guys and, you know, get into it. So, before we get into all of that, some of you may or may not know who I am. And so, if you're sharing this, we'll definitely do this introduction. If you know who I am, awesome. Hey, how you doing? And if you don't, then this is going to be an introduction. So, my name is Sequoia Lindsay Taylor. I also go by Sequoia Ashley Taylor, depending on what that means, right? I'm a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner. And all that whole mouthful basically means is that I'm in the functional medicine field. I'm a functional medicine practitioner. In functional medicine, our goal is to get to the root cause of things, right? So, not so much focus on, you're going to hear me talk about this a little bit more later, not so much focus on this diagnosis or this disease or this symptom. We want to get to the root cause of that, whether that is a spiritual thing, whether that is a mental, emotional thing, or whether that is a actual physical manifestation, right? So how we do that, right? So we tell people that I'm a functional medicine practitioner, and that what we do is we help women to discover and decode their genetic genius so that they can be healthy, happy, and gain harmony. We do this by assisting you to distress the mess and establish healing habits by doing genetic testing and functional lab testing so that you can like distress the mess, stop guessing and actually testing, right? And finding out how the ways to customize and individualize your care to you. Right. And so we're not doing what everyone else is doing. We're not doing what the big box stores tell us to do. We're not saying what it's like all over the media or social media because the loudest thing today, we're not doing that. We're going to help you to individualize and customize your health care to you and only you. So if it's your cousin, grandma, uncle, mama, friend, it will be something different for them because it has to be individualized to that person, right? So our niche and our specialty within the functional medicine, because we talk about stress management and things of that nature, is genetics and epigenetics, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more in a few seconds. So that is our niche market. That is what we focus on to use to help you customize and individualize your care. Also, while we're doing, if you guys have any questions, please do put them in the chat, and we will answer them as we're going along. So, most people may not realize this, and some people do, and they maybe not in the same form, but there's at least three ways to use your DNA, three ways to use your genetics, right? And so when we talk about the genetics, we always like think about this to where you come from and who you come from and things of that nature. But we're going to talk about several different ways to actually use your DNA and your genetics to customize and individualize you. Like I said, not mom. Even you like my mom, I came from my mom, not mom, right? Not kids, because they come from you, not spouse, not friends, right? We helping you to use your DNA to customize, individualize you, your care, your wellness, your healthcare as well, right? So one of the ways that we talk about that is in a science way or in a health way, a wealth and wellness way. One way is a spiritual way, and the last way is in a succession way. So the first one up is science. So the reason why we call this the science way because we our motto is that your health history should not be a mystery. Said it again. I heard this other day. Your health history should not be a mystery. Right? When you go to your primary care physician, the one they hand you that clipboard, all this paperwork, you have to keep filling this out. You're like, I did this last time, right? The one of the main things that they ask you about is your health history. And that is important because your health history, what we say history repeats itself, and it gives us a good snapshot if it's in your health history, what to kind of look for in you as a person. It gives us a foundation to say, is this going to happen to this person? Is this what's happening to them? They got this from the father side, they got this from the mother side, right? So you're putting your health history there because they're using it as a precursor of what could potentially happen to you. So in science, when you talk about your health history and we're using your genetics or your DNA in a actual science way, we're helping you to discover your health foundation, right? Because a lot of people have, they'll say, oh, my great grandma had this, or my mom had this, or my dad had this, or I don't know what they had, right? And so there's a lot of people in this group that they have no idea what their true health history is. And so being able to use your genes to assist you to have proper lifestyle habits is imperative. This is a great way for us to be able to use your genetics because when we actually do your genetics, you're going to actually take a genetic test, or if you've already done one, we'll talk about that a little bit later, and then it goes into our system where we use all the science techie AI and algorithms and coding and different type of things that tells us about you. It spits out these reports that we call the book of you, and then we establish and give you the book of you so that we can help you to in a scientific way or your health and wellness way to be able to actually help you to discover and decode about you. And so what that means is when we say the stress the mess, that acronym is MESS stands for meals, exercise, environment, stress, sleep. And when we say meals, we mean like vitamins, minerals, amino acids, fats, carbs. Yes, I say carbs. Your good fats and stuff like that, your omegas and things of that nature. What do you need to do to eat to live and not live to eat? And so as we're on that spectrum, um when we're on that thinking about on that spectrum and you're looking at how can I use my DNA and that you can actually find out certain things. So yes, we look at it and we look at those things and say, hey, I'm on keto. Well, maybe you shouldn't be on keto, right? That's not beneficial to you right now. Or hey, maybe I'm using this environmental thing, or I was doing this particular exercise and I need to be doing something else, or I'm stressing this way, or I need to have a management plan this way, or sleeping my type of sleep, or supplementation, right? When we start talking about your supplementation, am I using supplementation and I may be taking a capsule, but should I use a spray? Should I use a suppository? Should I use a patch? There are several different ways that you maybe need to have options to, but you may not know it. Because a lot of people say, well, I'm taking my multivitamins, I'm taking this stuff, but then I'm not processing it. And then you get, expensive urine and things of that nature, right? And so that's because different people are processing things a different way. And so, like some of the things that I have personally learned is that I don't have a histamine response barely at all, right? When I have severe allergies, so when it does kick in, it is slow, like days, slow to kick in, and when it kicks in, it's slow. It's very low. It's like a slow come in, and then it's only gonna go up so far to help me. And so I have to do supplementation to make sure that I'm able to do that. Caffeine, I process caffeine really fast, but I do not process salt fast. I'm a slow metabolizer of salt. So even those little snippets of that allows you to be able to see. We go way deeper than that in your book of you, but those are just like snippets so you understand what we're saying. Hey, you can actually get customized to you, right? What are some of the things that you may need to be adding? What are some of the things you may need to be taken away and not do so much of, right? So the concept is, are you helping your genes or are you hurting your genes? Did you turn on a switch or did you turn off a switch? And so that is the key thing when you're doing things. And as you have that better picture about you, is it helping you? When you're eating, you're going to eat different. You're going to exercise different. You're going to sleep different. You're going to stress less. Your environmental toxins, you're going to be more mindful of those because you are going to know, how is this affecting me, right? And that's the genetic side. Then the epigenetic side, when I say we're going to talk about it earlier, the epigenetic says, how is it being expressed? So yes, you may have a variation and you may have to do some supplementation for particular meal, or you're not processing it right and you have maybe a gut issue. And so how is that being expressed, right? Like, or did you help or hurt? And so no, this is not a process of saying, are we diagnosing something, are we doing this? It's actually showing you so that you can, in those lifestyle areas, those key lifestyle areas, you can actually set up a plan to be able to assist you. You're able to monitor it. You're able to have a plan. You're able to tweak and change as you go through life changes, because everybody's not going to be the same. Your stress levels are not going to be the same. Sometimes you may be calm and have okay, everything's going smooth in life, and then we hit a bump in the road, and then all things goes kaput, and now we have to reassess and do that. But if you have a baseline that gives you explanation about this, then you're able to understand it, right? So that's the science way of using your genetics. Spiritually. So this is a shocker to most people. And when you think about it on the level that, if you believe in a higher power, if you believe that we are a triune being, that we're a body, soul, and spirit, that you're mind, body, and spirit, if you look at that as that we have to treat or maintain or focus on the whole being of a person, then this will make sense, right? Because in this healthcare world, it used to be that they use about 3 to 7%, but as we're progressing, we're kind of getting close to that 10% of using of your DNA. But what happens to the other 90 something percent that is not being used yet? So, yes, all those millions of variations and all the science and stuff that we're using is only about 10% of our DNA they've actually decoded and understand, right? So, when you're looking at it from the aspect, what is happening on the other side of this 90 something percent? In the science world, they say, oh, that's just junk DNA. We don't need it. If you believe in a triune being, if you believe that we are here for a purpose and that there's nothing that is a mistake about us, right? Then you say, well, that can't be so. And so when we get to this area, you'll hear us start talking about like bioengineers. You'll hear us talk about energy. You'll hear us start talking about frequency. You'll start hearing us talk about different ways that you have to heal yourself on a cellular level. You in these cells, remember the science where we had the cells and the DNA and all that kind of stuff, and the little helix sign, and all those things can unravel based on how you treat your cells and how they rejuvenate. Get into a base level and ways that you could do that, right? So you're discovering your spiritual DNA, discovering it through, through binaural beats. A lot of people use them things, sound baths and sound healing, frequency healing, light, energy work. That is what they're tapping into and getting more to a cellular level, the spiritual side, quote unquote, of your actual DNA. And also helps you to heal damaged DNA, because DNA, some aspects of DNA needs to be repaired. And when you're not living the best lifestyle in all areas, right? This is even a mental and emotional way, you are damaging your DNA. And so one of the ways that people can actually do that at a spiritual level is DNA activation. Like I said, sound healing, frequency healing, meditation, prayer, focusing, de-stressing, those type of things. And so that is another way that you can use your DNA, because if you think about it, especially for women, if you are born with all the eggs that you will ever have in your ovaries to produce children, then when your mother was being formed, the eggs were inside of her, and you were also inside your grandmother and all those generations back. So when some people talk about stuff that's passed on, like a generational curse or those type of things, so just like we have a medical history from our parents and our parents' parents and parents' all those generations back, we also have a spiritual lineage that's being passed as well. So all the hope, all the pain, all the hurt, all the sorrow, all the happiness, all the wishful thinking, all the prayers, all that stuff also gets transmuted and passed down through energy and frequency as well. So we definitely have to pay attention to that. On the spiritual DNA, you are also having that passed through you as well, and going through that process. Yeah, so we definitely want to make sure that we're paying attention on that end. And the last way, or the last way we're going to talk about that we can actually use your ways of using your DNA, is your succession, your genealogy. This is the most common way that people know and utilize their actual DNA. So, for example, 23andMe, Ancestry, My Heritage, Family Roots. It's so many different companies that are popping up that says, "Hey, we can take a swab or a spit or a sample and tell you that you're 17% European and 66% African and 13% Indian." Hint: most people who think they're African American are not African American. I mean, that think they're Native American or not Native American. So how a lot of people are like, I have Indian in my family. Most of the time, is not the case, right? So they get these genetic reports for that, and they go through these processes of saying, "Hey, I want to learn," or they want to be connected and see genetically are they connected to people out here in the world. They're doing it for a sense of finding out who they are, but they're also doing it for the sense of community, to have a sense of belonging, right? So that same succession that we're talking about, now I know who my parents are, and my great grandparents, and their great parents, and 12 generations out, we like 7,000 ancestors, right? Some crazy number like that as you go back so many generations. It's amazing, right? And so that based on saying I seceded from somebody, I'm a succession of this person, or my genealogy is this, is the main way that people are using for their genetics. But that same succession also says I got this from our blood pressure from this side of the family, right? And that's how you're able to use your genetics in a science way and a spiritual way, because we're all coming from someone. We're all coming from something, right? And so when we look at that in that way, when you talk about your succession, it is a very important piece, because it is the piece. It's the puzzle that you just kind of filling in those pieces in that says, hey, this is who I descended from, and again, I'm this percent of this, and I didn't know I had this much European blood, or I didn't know I had this much Native American, or even Asian. Some people are probably more Asian than this, or I knew I was European, but I didn't know I was Irish, right? And so having that gives you a sense of connectivity, because once you find the information out, now you start getting into different cultures, and then you start finding out different things about this, and you're like, oh, now I see why I'm interested in this. This could have been something I inherited from my genealogy, right? And so that is one of the major and main ways that people use their for their genetics. And it's also an amazing way that leads into a segue of being able to use it for your science, which is your health and wellness, and using it for spiritual, your energy and your frequency, and your spiritual DNA as well. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you. I'm going through the comments. If you guys have any questions, so we're gonna go ahead and go to our Q&A and our frequently asked questions. So if you guys have any questions at this time, please do put them in the chat so that we can answer them. And then we will I'll in the meantime I will answer some of the frequently asked questions that get asked of me all the time. But if you have any questions, please do put them in the comments. One of the frequently asked questions that we get asked all the time is the information that I use for our platform and software, um is it shared, is it sold, is it, do publicize them? So the answer to that from my agency, from our practice, is no. The organization that we use, the labs that we use, are all HIPAA and clear certified. Even our patients can tell you they go into a portal. There's like double fat, two fat encrypted, whatever that means, and all that kind of stuff. That science, I mean, the techie people, the tech people. I'm a science geek, not the tech person, but all that stuff is inside of there. And so the labs have to be clear certified, which means they can't sell your information. HIPAA compliant. We all know what that means. They share the information. You can get them fines and all that good jazz, right? And so, no, they're not allowed to do that. As a matter of fact, most of the times, if you use like our labs to do your testing, you're enrolling it just on the front end of with your name and stuff like that. But then as you go into the system and they actually take your sample, you're actually a code or a number. So that is how you're registered in. So it's not even to them. It's not even saying this is Jane Doe. It is number 265,343, something like that, right? And so it's registered by a code or a number that comes with that actual kit. And so that is one of the things to think about. Another frequently asked question is that a lot of people say, well, hey, Sequoia, I did do genetic testing already from, I was using it for session, right? They were looking for genealogy and they used a 23andMe or Ancestry or, or they use like a My Heritage or something like that. Can you use that same file since you said that our DNA is not going to change? And the answer is if you can get the raw data file and we can support it in our platform, then yes, if you have already done Ancestry or 23andMe and some of those other bigger ones, and they give you access to you request and they give you access to your raw data file, then yes, we can actually use that, because remember, your DNA is going to be the same from the first cell that made DNA till now. It's the same DNA. It's the same file, but then it's all that algorithm and the AI and technology and stuff like that is done differently. So yes, if you have access to the raw data file, then yes, we can get that information for you, um, and go from there. And then we do it. If you have not actually done it, a lot of times I post when some of those companies have sales. Like I think a couple of them is getting ready to be Mother's Day, so a lot of them will have sales and stuff like that. And so you know, keep an eye out when they have sales. If you need to go ahead and get the testing done, we have our own testing through our platform and system that we can get the genetic testing. It's sent to you. You swab or you spit, and then you send it back in. 6 to 8 weeks, you get your results, and then we start our process. Another frequently asked question that we get asked a lot is, do we do with this process, or do we do our program that we call, this is your genetic genius program? Do we do that program to in the purposes of diagnosing or telling, like, hey, am I going to get this cancer, or am I going to get that cancer? And the answer to that is no. Remember at the beginning we said, at functional medicine we want to get to the root cause, so we're not as concerned about someone having a cancer or someone having a, fibromyalgia, IBS, or I have this and Hashimoto's and stuff like that. Those are symptoms and those are diseases of the body that says I have something going on. But what is the root cause is causing that? And so we have to get to the root cause to be able to pluck it up so that the tree dies, right? We can't just keep cutting limbs off the tree, and hoping we're going to get to the base. You have to go to the root to figure it out. And so that is our goal. So in that case, we do not, right? I'm in functional medicine. The people who actually go and say, hey, there's a high prevalence for this, for, maternity and stuff like that, or people who do that for like certain cancers, that is a genetic counselor. The genetic counselor is going to look at it and say, hey, you're based off the BRCA gene, you do have a variation in this gene, you have a high prevalence of doing that. The key thing about even that is that you may have a variation in that gene and then never have that cancer, never have that disease, right? Because you have not turned on the switch. You could have been a healthier lifestyle, you have kept your system up, and you have not turned the switch. Or you can have something that has not been turned on, that you do not have a variation in, but you also could turn that switch on. So if I don't have a lung cancer or something, it's not a variation. But if I smoke every day for 30 years, am I going to have an increase of having this? Possibly, yes, right? So your lifestyle, when we said epigenetics, how that is actually expressed, those genes are expressed, is very important. That's why we deal with the lifestyle areas for you. When we come and going to say, hey, these are ways that you can use as a baseline that is based off of you. And then if need be, we can do the lab testing that shows us more of that snapshot of what's going on right now. So the genetic genes program, we use your DNA to do stuff. It's basically a snapshot. It's not saying like, hey, this is variation or this is this. We're going to give you the recommendations that says, hey, you know what? You're a fast metabolizer of caffeine, so you drinking coffee or you doing like energy drinks and stuff, this is no effect. How can we do something else? So we may start saying matcha tea, or doing other things, right? Or you a salt. Okay, we have to be very careful that if you are slow metabolizer of salt, because if you're getting a lot of salt and it's taking forever for it to go out your system, then hence you will start having problems with that, right? And you start having numbers and stuff like that, and other systems go out of whack, and it compounds upon each other. So having that inside knowledge is not so much about worried about the variation. Yes, it may or may not be there, but what can we do to be proactive, right? We want to help you to customize and individualize your healthcare. So we have this information. Now we will start doing those things to be proactive, because you're going to get the recommendations for it. You're going to have the inside knowledge that is forever. Like once you get these book reviews, the reports, that is the process. Another frequently asked question that we get asked is like the whole process of the genetic genes package and program. It is a program. It is not a one and done. You actually, whether you send us the raw data files or we have to get the genetic testing, then once we have them, we put in our systems, we create the book of you. And then when I say book of you, it would be the book of Jane, it would be the book of John, it would be the book of Barbara, like that. And because it's about you, and those reports are compiled, and then you actually have 6 different sessions with us. We go through those actual reports. In this area of meals, okay, you need to have more of this. Like I said earlier, are you methylating something, or are you taking a vitamin? Hey, I need B12, but okay, is it a particular B that you need in a particular format? Because if you're taking a capsule, you may need to be doing a suppository or something, right? Because you have this issue now, or you may need to have a patch that's going to give it to you slowly over the day. If you're a slow metabolizer, you need to have it slowly over the day, right? or your fast metabolism is burning out fast, or you're not even processing it in your gut, then you may need something that's going to like taper out through the day. So it's all about having that information so that we can customize those to yourself. Same thing with exercise. Some people think they should be doing cardio, and you probably should be doing yoga and walking. Environmental stuff. What you're brushing your teeth with. What are you bathing with? What are you cooking with? Your phones have 5G and EMFs coming out of it. The computers in your eyes. It's so many things as far as the environment. The environmental toxins are becoming a top thing. Most people think it's meals and exercise. Environmental toxins and sleep are becoming top things when we start talking about stress reduction that are beneficial, right? Stress management, when you start talking about, am I a warrior? Like, do I worry all the time? Oh my gosh, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. Or am I a warrior? Oh, nothing gets to me. I'm okay. I'm cool. I don't care about that. It doesn't bother me. Both of those are commonplace, but they both have their pros and cons as to how you are going to deal with stress and how it's going to hinder or help your body. And sleep is the number one thing that we tell people, because this whole rhetoric of sleep when you're dead, and don't get proper sleep and go through this process is a no because it's literally killing us. If your body is in a chronic stage of fight or flight, or in a chronic stage of stress, numbers pre-COVID was about 80% of um, 80% of stress was the cause of stress was the cause of about 80% of chronic disease. So now that number is in the 90 to 92, 93 range percent. And they're actually calling that the next pandemic, right? Because people are stressed out for many different reasons. It's causing havoc on the body. And that higher percent of, people saying they're stressed and this is causing a chronic disease, then we cannot stay in a constant state of fight or flight. My body's on the go. I already got a process to eat. I have to blink. I have to walk. I have to move my arm up. I have to go out and run. Then on top of that, I have a life stressor, right? I have a life event. I have to worry about bills. I have to worry about being a parent. I have to all these things that are compiling in, and without the proper techniques and resources, it's causing other diseases to come up faster and sooner, right? And so you also have to look at that. So sleep is a very important thing, because quality sleep will allow you to get out of that fight or flight mode and get into rest and digest. And this is why you see a lot of people with digestive issues because of that, right? So that's a whole nother conversation we're gonna be talking about soon, because a lot of people don't realize that a lot of this digestive stuff that's coming up is due to stress. And so so as far as the frequently asked question, no, we do not base stuff off of diagnosis or potential diseases. We base off being proactive about that, because remember, your health history shouldn't be a mystery, and then you're going to help you to distress the mess, right? By discovering and decoding your genetic genius so that you can make your health care, your wellness care customized and individualized to you. So no, you could come to us with most of our patients come with us with chronic fatigue syndrome. You wouldn't give like a diagnosis or something, hormone imbalance and stuff like that. But we do not focus primarily on a particular disease or ailment. We look at the root cause of it. And so that is our questions. Does anybody else have any questions? I'm gonna been on here about 30 minutes, and I did want to kind of keep that pretty short. Thank you guys so much who are tuning in. Please be sure to um like, share, comment. Again, if you're watching live, thank you guys to the people who have actually said hey. For those of you who are watching the replay, please do put hashtag replay. Please do tag your family and friends or in there, because the main thing is that we're noticing that I'm noticing, especially since this month is Stress Awareness Month, and National DNA Month is in that month as well. Birthday month for me. April is amazing month, right? And so when we're talking about these things, a lot of people are coming saying they're just sick and tired of being sick and tired. They know something is wrong. They express this with their physicians, and they just keep getting this, revolving door type of situation. And a lot of it is because we're attempting to put a puzzle together that is missing pieces. So if you have a puzzle and then you get to the last piece and you're like, I'm missing a corner, or I'm missing one on the top left, or I'm missing this one here, right? And that it makes the puzzle incomplete. And most people get frustrated because they're like, oh man, I did all that work and didn't get to the end goal, right? So you just have to be mindful that a lot of times is you're not crazy, you're not insane. Most of the people who are know that something is wrong with them, there it's not saying a bad thing, but they know something is just not is not right. It's just like it's something that's quite not not quite right. And it creates that revolving door, because they say, oh, based off of this lab, you're in compliance and you're okay, and you're like, but I still don't feel this way, or I don't feel this way. um and this medication is not helping, but they put me on another medication, and so you just keep doing this revolving door. um of just keep doing the same thing and expecting to get a different result. And so we know that's the definition of it. So that's what we like to focus on. So how can you get in contact with us to actually talk about ways to discover and decode your genetic genes, your DNA and your genetics? It's also actually through the Ashe Wellness. The main ways to be able to do it is to email at info@ashewellness.com. You can set up a wellness chat with us that gives us a snapshot of a wellness a scan. You can set up a wellness consultation with us as well, and then we start talking about the different ways of which one. Because a lot of people are saying, "Well, hey, Sequoia, you said a spiritual way and a science way. Like, which one should I do first?" And I feel like it's a circle. You eventually get to all of it, but sometimes some people may need to do the spiritual route of the DNA, clearing it up first, then go on to the science. And then some people need to do the science and then start working out with the spiritual. It just depends, again, customized to you. And so we have a scan that kind of gives us more insight about that as well. You can book those consultations at appointment.ashewellness.com. So it's appointment.ashewellness.com. You can also give us a call. And if you want to stay in the loop about what is going on, you definitely want to go to subscribe.ashewellness.com. This is very important because what I just said about the whole pandemic, about the stress, we're going to be having a stress management program that's going to come out. There's going to be a group program that's coming out soon. We have some amazing teachers and speakers and leaders that are going to be helping with that. And so that's going to be an actual course and program. And so you definitely want to stay in tune with that. You also want to stay in tune when we're doing a master class, when we're doing education, and all that good jazz and stuff that's coming out, different ways that we could do this, different techniques that we're learning to be able to do this as well. And so definitely want to go to subscribe.ashewellness.com to stay in the loop about what we're doing over at Ashe Wellness. So, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you guys are having an amazing day. It's Wellness Wednesday, I believe. And just know that if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat. You can inbox us. You can message us. We are Ashe Wellness on Facebook, Ashe Wellness on Instagram, and Ashe Wellness on TikTok for fun. All right. So if you have, and we're also that on LinkedIn as well. So if you have any questions, please do feel free to reach out to us, ask questions, like get feedback, and let us know how we can assist you in this area because you have the Ashe, right? That I have the power to change and make things happen. And guess what, you guys? So do you. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. Please do feel free to share, like, comment, and let us know your thoughts. All righty, talk to you guys soon, and we hope you have a great rest of your evening. Bye bye.